And there you go.
Welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Alina Slapac. I'm an associate professor in College of Education at the University of Missouri, St. Louis. And I'm here with my co-moderator, Dr. Alex Masardo from University of Gloucestershire, and with our wonderful host, Hope Windle. Thank you so much for joining us today for this great opportunity to hear from colleagues from Durban University. And we have here with us today Dr. Catharina Womack and Dr. Penny Orton. And I will introduce them shortly. But I also want to remind everyone, if you are wondering what else we are doing next month, well, you are welcome to present. I hope that Dr. Mona Pearl will be available to present for the next session, but we also have openings for March and April. And see who, if you are willing to present, please contact us. We are always looking for wonderful presenters to share the research related to COIL or what else you guys are doing, wonderful things within the virtual exchange world related to research. Sorry, Alex, would you like to say something?
Yeah, so I'm Alex Masardo, University of Gloucestershire in the UK. And just to echo some of Alina's points, I think the key thing about these sessions are that they're opportunities for us really to get together and explore sort of research ideas and, the potential maybe for projects, funding. We really ought to use this as an opportunity, a sort of community of practice, if you like, really to sort of think about how we can advance the field. And it's really open to everybody, whether they're starting off their research in this field or whether you're established researchers or COIL coordinators. This is really a great sharing platform. So, and just very, very pleased to welcome Penny and Catharina.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. And please, for everyone here today, please introduce yourselves on the chat. And Alex and I will monitor. And if you have questions, I hope we'll have time at the end for some questions for the presenters. Dr. Catharina Womack is a legal practitioner and law educator who, amongst other degrees, holds a PhD in management sciences, specializing in business administration from the Durban University of Technology in South Africa. She is currently pursuing a number of her special interests, which spans legal education, legal practice, and research in academia. She is a senior lecturer in the Department of Applied Law, Faculty of Management Sciences at the Durban University of Technology. And her responsibilities include teaching and learning, of course, lecturing undergraduate students, law modules, as well as doing research supervision. And Catharina has for a number of years partnered and collaborated with various academics from other universities in Europe, England, America, and South America. And she examines also postgraduate research for a few tertiary institutions in South Africa and has co-published journal articles and conference proceedings in local and international journals, and as well as attended a number of conferences over the years. She is a registered practicing member of the Legal Practice Council as an attorney and notary.
There we go. Go ahead.
Welcome, Dr. Catharina Womack. Thank you so much for sending us the bio. It's very impressive. We are so happy to have you here with us. And welcome, Dr. Penny Orton. Penny is a nurse educator who holds a PhD from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. She is currently pursuing many of her special interests, which spans education and research in academia. She has an appointment at Durban University of Technology as an Honorary Research Fellow in the Faculty of Health Sciences, with responsibilities for postgraduate research supervision, mentoring, and coaching academics in the scholarship of teaching and learning and research supervision. Penny worked for a number of years embedding COIL across the university and was privileged to be able to collaborate with many of the big names in virtual exchange in COIL, including her introduction to COIL design in 2016, when that introduction was facilitated by Hope. I didn't even know what COIL was in 2016, so it's amazing. And continue to work with Catharina and her partners in researching various aspects of COIL. Penny examines postgraduate research for a number of universities in South Africa and reviews journal articles for a few South African health journals. And she's an Academy of Nursing Fellow, a Teaching Advancement at Universities Fellow, and member of the South African Society of Occupational Health Nurses. Catharina also mentioned that Penny was instrumental in introducing her to various COIL partners with whom she has collaborated over the years since 2021, and they have continued to work together in researching various aspects of COIL projects over the years. So please join me in welcoming our wonderful lecturers and speakers today. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just share the slide deck quickly. There it goes. So nice to see Penny here.
Thank
We
you,
have
Hope.
really done so many
Mm.
COIL collaborations over the years, and COIL Plus Travel, connecting nurses in Durban, South Africa, and SUNY Ulster, and just amazing work. So really excited to
Yeah.
see you.
Thanks very much. And thank you very much to Alina and the team for inviting us or taking up our offer to share some of our research ideas. And so thanks a million for that. And we look forward to sharing some ideas with you. Look forward to any questions you might have. Hope we can answer them. And just a general sort of sharing evening. So just to start, I think Alina alluded to some of it with that Catharina had mentioned. So our relationship, and I was saying to Alina when we started, that I think, this is the biggest thing in COIL is, for sustainable COIL is this relationship that you build up with your international partners. Now, Catharina and I, obviously we don't COIL together because one, I don't have a class anymore, and but I just work alongside her in her COIL projects, more on the scholarship side and sort of brainstorming ideas and so on. But Catharina was a law lecturer in our Department of Nursing, so that's where we got to know each other. We both, when we did our PhDs, we both did mixed methods, so that sort of formed something to chat about and share ideas around. And then in about 2018, 2019, Catharina expressed sort of interest. She attended some of our COIL workshops and started to express interest. And through that, we brought her into the Ikudu project, which was a big European, South African big COIL project, where they were putting COIL across 5 universities in South Africa, 5 universities in Europe, 1 in the UK and 4 in Europe, South mainland Europe. And it was through that sort of partnership that we started to work together. And then we ended up, the first one that today we're going to talk more about the COIL projects that have materialized into some research outputs. So I won't go into all the different projects that we've done, but we started really with Jose Luis and Maria from UCAB, or I've forgotten the initials, but and that was in 2020, I think, during COVID, and we took it from there. So we've had a long relationship. I'm no longer employed at the university, so I'm not except in an honorary position. But we've maintained our relationship and our friendship, and we've had quite a number of research outputs from our relationship.
And just to add to what Penny has said, Penny has been a great mentor. She's guided me right from baby steps right throughout the process. So Penny has really been a fantastic motivator, helper, collaborator, guide. Yes. Okay, to go on the COIL projects that we're going to look at, the first one is the University, Andreas Bocello University of Caracas. That one is in Venezuela. And there it involved law students on their side, and on our side, it was hospitality students. And the common area that we spoke on was labor law. Then the UK, that one is Liverpool John Moore University. And there it was law students from both sides. So initially we coiled and collaborated in labor law. And then the project that we're going to talk on today is the one that we dealt with cyber security, cyber awareness. And then the other one, my current partner is from America, and that is from the Rockland University College in New York. And there we collaborated. Her students are law students. My students are from different fields. One is shipping and logistics. The other one is drama production. And the other group is, I have gone and forgotten. Oh, analytical chemistry students. And the common area there is on human rights and the global geopolitical tensions. That's our topic there. And so the first project is this Andreas Bello Catholic University of Caracas. So here Penny introduced me to Jose and to Maria. And what we decided to do, that was during COVID. And we decided the common area that we collaborated on was labor law. And we looked at things like unemployment. So those were the issues. And then so the topic that they were going to collaborate on was the impact of COVID-19 on women's employment in South Africa. So that was our students, and then their students did Venezuela. And what we did here is we decided, because they were third years, to bring in research. And the reason why we decided to do that was the possibility that they might go on to fourth year, do postgrad, and we wanted to give them a taste of what research was like. So that was a unique element of our project. And so what we did here, Penny will go on and tell you more about that. But we wanted them to, we designed the instrument. They didn't have to design it, but they needed to conduct a literature review around the topic. And the reason for that was so that they could learn how to write policy and procedures, and learn best practices, and make links with the skills that they need for the workplace. So they also needed to deal with labor law, and that was where the whole thing about unemployment came in, work-life balance. Those were some of the issues that they had to deal with, because we were living under fairly extreme circumstances during COVID, and when people had to work remotely, and a number of people lost their jobs.
I think the interesting thing with this project was that the students, the module they were studying was labor law, but Maria and Catharina used the research stages, methodology, in order for the students to do the literature review and to analyze data and so on. So they got the disciplinary knowledge of the labor law from their readings, and they conducted the research on these ladies who had either lost jobs or, had difficulties during COVID, but that they had at the same time got this sort of supplementary research knowledge, which I think helps them you know, if they go out into the world of work and they suddenly get asked to do a motivation for a piece of equipment or something, they know that they can't just thumb suck, you know, a motivation. They have to go and do some literature search and read up a little bit about it and embed that knowledge, you know, that those findings into their motivation or into a policy, into a procedure. So I think a common thread you're going to see throughout our presentation is this issue of developing some independent research proposal. We always have to go through the ethics boards, or the IRB as in US lingo. And usually both universities have to get the ethics approval. So it's very important that you really think through your project and the design of your project very early on, because I'm not sure about many other universities, but Durban University of Technology will never give you a retrospective ethics approval. So we always have to think about, what do we want? Is there anything we want research-wise out of this project, and that we've developed an independent proposal and put it through for ethics. So the students were required to conduct a mini literature review. They collected data, which using a quantitative instrument that had been developed actually by Maria. Interestingly, with this project, we then used that instrument on another occasion, and we refined it through the use of a statistician. So the first iteration, it was, you know, there were lots of errors in the data, but we got enough to make some conclusions, and the students had this experience of collecting data. And then they also had to analyze that quantitative data, but they also conducted interviews with some of the people that they had collected quantitative data from. So this was an example of using the students to actually collect the data. We developed the proposal, we developed the instrument, we refined it, we worked with the statistician in further refinement of the instrument over time. But it was just a slightly different, I think the uniqueness was that these were law students, but using a sort of research methodology for the teaching. And we had some output. We both attended the IVAC 2022 International Conference. Catharina and Jose presented a publication, a poster presentation, and we also had a journal publication out of that research.
Yeah, and that was also where I met my current COIL partner. So I'll talk about later about networking, but that's where I met Patricia from America. So it's a good place to also meet future COIL collaborators. Our next project was on, that's the one that I did with Alison. So again, Penny and Leslie were instrumental in finding us academics a COIL partner. So Penny set up the meeting for me to liaise with Alison. Alison she's Professor Alison Louis. She's an associate dean of the global engagement. She's a joint deputy head for the Center Study of Law and Theory and Practice in the School of Law. So her students were law students, and from South Africa, we were also using law students. And initially when we met and we COILed, we were doing it on labor law. So here we were doing like dispute resolution, dismissals. We looked at those were the topics that we covered. But and that went on for a few years. So in 2021 to 2023, it was labor law. But then in 2023, Alison, because she's part of well, she's with UK, she then found an opportunity where there was the Association of Commonwealth Universities was giving grants. So she then said to me, let's do a motivation, let's apply for this grant. And we went on a completely different tact. we left labor law and we were now looking at cybersecurity and cyber awareness. So we applied and we were successful in getting that grant, but initially we weren't aware that we were successful. So although we applied in 2023, we firmed up in 2024, so we only implemented in 2025. So also what we had to do is, once we were successful in getting the grant, we had to enter into a collaboration agreement between the two universities as to how we were going to split the money, how we were going to use it, for what purposes. We also wanted to conduct research. So again, we did a brand new independent proposal, obtained ethical clearance again from both universities. But here now our topic was cybersecurity awareness. And what the students were required to do in their groups was to develop some form of an artifact, whether it was a campaign, a presentation, in order to raise cybersecurity awareness in a particular community. What was also very interesting about this project was that, let me just see, what was interesting about this project is that we got external specialists to come and present to the students, and it was done virtually. And we had guest speakers both from South Africa and from the UK on the various different topics. And it was very interesting. There was, for example, Liverpool Metropolitan Police participated. It was very scary. He gave an example of using a Fitbit watch and how they can track exactly where you are, and they abducted one of their colleagues. So that completely put me off Fitbit watches, but it just shows you how careful we need to be. And so it was very interesting for the students. I think the students in South Africa learned a lot. So like I said, we learned about deep fakes. It was actually very good. And then the funds, because we had got funds, we then used the funds to purchase gifts for the guest speakers, and to give prizes, award prizes for the winning groups. And we also gave the students certificates for participation, as well as a small gift for them. So that was great that we had that extra funding and that we were able to use that. So we didn't use the funding for ourselves, but we rather used it to promote the project. Penny?
Yeah, I think this project, I think the interesting things from the research side is the fact that you can use your COIL projects to try and get some grants to pay for things. The fact that we had the slightly different model in that we had got the external expert lecturers or people from the industries to come and talk on whether it was bank security, social media security, homeland security, all sorts of, and the police, South African police and the Metropolitan Police, Liverpool Metropolitan. Again, we used, in this project though, we researched the students, and here we looked at more disciplinary knowledge. So had the students, we did a pre and post test on the students to see if they had increased their cybersecurity awareness through the project. The faculty output here was Catharina went to a Jabata conference in Portugal or Spain or somewhere and presented there. We had a journal article published out of this, and I did a presentation at a digital, it's a digital teaching and learning conference. We got to travel to Mauritius for that and presented the results of that study on the pre and post test quantitative data that we had accessed from the students. So I think it's just another, here we tested students in terms of their disciplinary knowledge. So just another angle to your research and your COIL projects. These were the two research outputs that we had in terms of the conference and, well, two journal articles in the end, because Catharina, from her Jakarta conference, the article was published, or the conference presentation was published in some conference proceedings. And then we had the journal article in Education and Information Technologies. Next was the Rockland Community College. That's her current work.
Yeah, so this is the partner that I met at the IVEC conference in, was it 2022?
Yeah.
So that's Professor Patricia. Oh, I struggle to pronounce her surname. I think it's Sabonia.
Yes, that's good. You got it.
Hi, Patricia. So we've worked together. So we met at the IVEC, and then we started to collaborate over the years. And some of our topics obviously changed, but again, the one we're going to focus on is the one that we did that dealt with human rights issues, and in particular, the geopolitical tensions. So again, we wanted to research on our students, so we had to do an independent proposal, and then we developed a COIL project. So from our side, and well, you can see it's also multidisciplinary, cross-disciplinary, because our students are drama production, analytical chemistry, and shipping and logistics. And the module they are doing is constitutional law and human rights, whereas Patricia's students are law students doing various law modules. So we had to find common ground. So that's where we looked at various human rights issues. And over the years, we've looked at things like gender-based violence. We've looked at bullying in various different forms, whether it's school bullying, whether it's cyberbullying. So, and then in our most recent one was this one about looking at the geopolitical tensions. So here again, we developed a tool or an instrument. And Patricia wanted us to look at whether it increased their intercultural competence. So here we did a survey on the students before and after, and we also looked at their reflections. And Penny will be able to input more on that. Penny?
Yeah, so I think this is, again, just a different take. So we, the ACU grant with Liverpool John Moores, we research students' disciplinary competence or knowledge, that they got out of that project. This one, we looked at something much more generic in COIL projects of the intercultural competency. And we also did the pre and post. And what we found is that we didn't pick up much difference, related to the COIL project. So then we started to ask ourselves questions about, are we using the wrong instrument, which is probably what it is. The instrument we were using was a validated instrument, but the age group the instrument had been developed in Germany, and it was developed with more sort of teenagers than, say, later adolescents or early adults age group. So whether the instrument was the right instrument, we're not sure. One of the issues around intercultural competency is being very specific about what you want to measure, and then making sure that the instrument you use really captures that construct of intercultural competency you're looking at. So this instrument we used is really around intercultural intelligence, I think they. And then we did have faculty output. Catharina attended the 2025 IVAC, and she and Patricia are busy with a book chapter relating to that project for Kelly's book that's busy in production at the moment. What was interesting here, and it leads into the next slide, was really that from our questioning around this, one of the questions we asked ourselves, are we not seeing a difference in the intercultural competency growth over the pre and post the project? Is it because both the students from the US and our students in South Africa are already working or schooling, living in very multicultural communities already? So do they have quite a high level of cultural competence already? And that's why we're not seeing a change. Is it, as I say, the wrong instrument, or is it social desirability where the students are answering how they think? And because it's a self-report, you know, they might be trying to answer what they think we would like to see. So we're not really sure about that. But that led us then to just sort of trying to look at our students who come from very multicultural societies, do they have high intercultural competence? So we have started doing a scoping review. It's going quite slowly because we've got loads of other things and there's no real pressure on this project. So we are hoping we will finish it in this year, but we've done the initial, well, searching for the literature, and we've got some huge number, like 300 and some odd articles that we need to whittle down. I think a benefit of this, and just to mention, you know, other spin-offs that come from this collaboration and the research and the questions and so on, is that we were able to put in, through another project I'm involved in, not through COIL, but an HIV research project, I was introduced to the software Covidence that helps you with the scoping reviews or systematic reviews. And so when approaching our university to say, you know, do we have Covidence software? They were no, but if you want to put in a motivation, we'll put it in for you, you know, through the library. So we're hoping, crossed fingers, that maybe that will be one of the spin-offs and will assist us with our scoping reviews. At the moment, we're using Covidence's free version, which just gives us, you know, some assistance, and it's fine for the fact that it's only Catharina and I that are doing the scoping review. But it's just another, you know, ultimately we hope to have a publication out of this. Perhaps we'll have a conference presentation from the scoping review, which came about really because of our, you know, researching in our COIL project and then asking the questions about why are we not seeing what we expect to see. I think also Catharina presented at Digital 2K last year, the year before now, I think it was 2024, where the research was not on any of the students or the COIL projects, but really her own reflection on her COIL for teaching and facilitation. So sort of not quite an autoethnography, but almost just a small reflection. And she was able to publish that in the conference proceedings of this Digital 2K and get a conference presentation out of that as well. So there's many, sorry?
Penny, don't you know we discussed that about the students' reflections.
Oh yes,
you want to maybe highlight
yes.
what we picked up there and what we also want maybe to do further research
yes.
on their reflections.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. Going back to the Rocklands project, one of the outputs that Patricia and Catharina got the students to do was a reflection, which often we give our students, 3 reflections through the COIL project and then have a look if anything changed. What was interesting when I started to do a qualitative analysis on those reflections, was that the students were writing a lot about the disciplinary knowledge that they had gained from the COIL project, and very much less about the benefits of the COIL project and how it helped them and did this to them, and that, you know, they loved meeting other people from other cultures and countries and so on. And so that for me was really interesting, was that when I did the analysis, you know, one of the topics that they were given was immigration. And they came up with this whole thing about this false narrative around immigration and the reasons for the push and pull factors, and creating a lot of awareness around why people are immigrating. And so some of those negative connotations of immigrants, because we have it here in South Africa hugely as well, they were able to have a sort of develop some empathy and some understanding of the plight of immigrants, and the social tensions and identities that come around about that, and then the human rights issues, which was what their project was really all about. But what was interesting here was also there was human trafficking, immigration, and students embraced those two topics. But one of the topics was the withdrawal of US aid into South Africa, which has affected our HIV program hugely, amongst other things. And the human rights and war. And the students didn't tackle those two very contentious issues, which were probably just a little bit too far for them in terms of feeling comfortable to discuss those things. So that was quite interesting. But what really interested me was the fact that they had, in their reflection, it was much more about what they had gained on the discipline that was the content of the project. And I think that goes to where COIL is probably moving a little bit away from the intercultural competence and those kinds of, the teamwork, and that we've been doing it for many years. And those things seem to be kind of embedded into the project and almost just happening. Whereas now we're seeing more of this, the bubbling up of the disciplinary knowledge, which is really great. And another strength for the pedagogy, as to how it can really strengthen disciplinary knowledge as well. And those other things are almost just integral to doing the project, the things like teamwork and technology and the intercultural competence.
And what was also interesting was when Patricia and I attended the most recent AVEC conference, we were talking about, because of this geopolitical issues, and maybe bringing in how to add to our COIL project in the future through like the peace talks, bringing in peace education, because negotiation and understanding each other's perspectives is also important. So we're already looking at new ideas for the future.
And I just wanted to add also that under those further spin-offs, a few years ago, 2019 or so, I think it was, we were at DUT, we were lucky enough to get a Stevens Initiative grant as well for some work that we did on intercultural competence. So, it's another example of how you can get some grants for your COIL work. So, yeah. And then just in conclusion, I think to wrap it all up, I think it's very important to be very intentional with your design and have really upfront think through what you might like to get out of it in terms of your research, thinking very early about that research component so that you can develop some independent ethics proposals and get your ethics approval and gatekeeper permission and all of that, so that that's all done in advance. And then, Catharina, maybe you want to just touch on the networking and the conferences where you get to network.
Yeah, so that's one thing about conferences, the networking definitely. From the AVEC 22 was where I partnered with Patricia. And now when we went to the AVEC 25, I got to meet Professor Kostas. He's got a big, long name, Konstantinidis Petridis, I think is his name. And we're looking at signing an MOU with that university for future collaboration. That's the Hellenic Mediterranean University in Crete. And so we want to do a hybrid program and then also get involved with more staff and student mobility. So having virtual exchange or COIL, and then also having the physical staff and student exchange. So what Professor Kostas has done is he's invited us this semester to participate in 3 blended intensive programs, one of which is on AI tools for learning and innovating, which is for the students. And then there's also 2 other programs. One is on leadership and soft skills. and the other is on the University of the Future, which is aimed at staff. And there's a week, so it's online, but then at the end, there's also where we're going to physically go to the university. So networking, there's definitely a lot of positive spin-offs by participating in COIL projects, and then going to conferences, conducting research, etc. Yeah.
So that's us. Thank you very much for attending. And if you have any questions, we would love to be able to try and answer them.
Thank you so much, Penny and Katrina. This has been wonderful. We really appreciate your time and the wisdom and sharing with us the amazing projects. It's really great to see that you kept that momentum going, right? That you started with the project in mind, but then you could have stopped at presentations, or you could have stopped, but you continued and you persevered and you worked through, having, of course, the ethical clearance and the research design, but also continuing through publications, which is wonderful to see. So it's amazing, really, to see how this relationship has developed over the years, interdisciplinary with different collaborators. We appreciate, of course, your sharing with us the experiences. There are several questions online that we would like to share with you. One is, and thank you everyone for participating and for asking those questions. One is in regards to MOU, if the institutions would need an MOU agreement, some type of agreement before starting those particular projects, especially in COIL. In my own experience, no, it is not necessary, but we would like to hear from you the response to that.
Okay, Penny, shall I take that, or do you want to
Yeah.
take that question?
No, you can
Okay,
take
what
it.
happened there, the reason why we had to do an MOU with the cybersecurity awareness was because we obtained that ACU grant, and that was a shared grant between us and LMJU. So we got a pool of money which we divided in half. And because it was also being sponsored by the, oh, Penny, what's the name again? The Commonwealth.
Association of Commonwealth Universities.
Yeah, because they were the funders, we also had to subsequently do a report and everything. And there had to be this agreement between the universities, and we had to disclose what it is that we were going to do with the money and how. So we had to draw up a budget in advance of getting the grant. And then subsequently, when we reported back how we spent the money, etc. So I think because of that grant, we had to have that MOU between the universities. It was a unique situation. So I think when it comes to funding, you probably need an agreement. If you're not dealing with funding and your project, then I don't think you need it.
Yeah, that's my own experience as well, especially if you go through funds like Erasmus and so on. So depending on the funding, especially if you apply for mobility type grants. I was also very impressed with the fact that you used the students as co-researchers. I think that's amazing. And in regards to that, there was a question about the tool that also you used, the intercultural competence tool. And if you could, there were actually two things related to that. One, if you could share the tool with us, and two, if you could tell us a little bit more about that particular tool. Thank you.
Penny, do you want to take that one?
I haven't got it all close at hand, but I can definitely share the tool with you, and the developers were very happy for us to use it. It was freely available on the net, but part of our ethics approval at our university, if you're using a tool, you have to show that you've approached the developers of the tool to get their permission. I can't even remember the authors' names, and yeah, that stuff is all filed away, but I'll get it for you. The tool was, it looked at 4 domains. intercultural, well, it was about cultural intelligence, and it looked at 4 different domains. And I'm frantically trying to open that folders file. Looked at 4 different domains, and then you administer it to there was a part that we didn't use, where the students had to write stories in that, and we thought our students are not wanting to do anything too onerous, and we probably wouldn't get much of a response if we got them to do anything more than tick some boxes. So that unfortunately was as far as we got. We didn't use you could maybe build it into your COIL project, and get them to do the reflection or writing a story as part of your project. But yeah, sorry, I'm all over the place because I'm just looking for that Stevens Initiative. We used it originally in the Stevens Initiative project. And so if I could pick up that quickly from which I can't. Anyway, I think I need to share it with you, and I can share the article and what, the information that, because I'm going to take too long hunting for it now, but I'll definitely share it with
Thanks,
you.
Penny. I know that we've got a hand up from Iba Ibrahim, and I know that there was a question from Iba in the chat about whether you were only using English language for the COILs, and I guess that links to that sort of reinforcing of that sort of hegemonic language. Iba, would you like to ask? Would you like to open your mic?
Yeah, sorry. First of all, thank you so much for the presentation. Yes, I did have that question in the chat. I would appreciate an answer to that. But I think when I raised my hand, it was kind of a follow-up on the MOU, if that's okay, just to quickly make one. Because, I mean, obviously we all have different professional experiences with institutions, but I just wanted to say that sometimes actually when you collaborate internationally with institutions that come from a very different cultural context when it comes to academia and research from your own. And that's something I learned from my personal kind of PhD work when I conducted a virtual exchange between an institution in Jordan, so what's, called the Global South, and Canada. An MOU might be actually necessary because there were some issues regarding, for instance, who keeps the data, how's the data going to be accessible for how many years, right? Especially if you don't actually have IRB, procedures in some of these institutions. So that in that situation, I think an MOU would be definitely necessary so everyone is just on the same page. That's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, we share our data with our partners. So we exchange our data, so that there's full disclosure on both sides. Yeah, we haven't had to do an MOU around that. But going back to the other question, I've forgotten what it was.
Oh, it was about the use of English language.
Oh yes, the use of English language. The Andreas, but that one was quite interesting, and it was quite challenging because Venezuela speaks Spanish. But one of their goals was that their students had to speak English, practice their English. Then the other thing was in South Africa, because we're multilingual and multicultural, we have 12 official languages. So again, the common language here is English. But it did pose, sometimes there was a problem because we had to use Jose as our translator. So he was very nice. He interpreted for us when we had our live sessions. There was one group that really posed a challenge because I don't know why they did it in their infinite wisdom, but they sent their entire report in Spanish to my students. So my students had a complete freak out, and they said, how do we even understand this? So then I said to them, well, just use Google Translate. And which they did, and then they were able to overcome. So yeah, language is a barrier, language is a challenge, but it's up to us as the academics to facilitate and try and overcome those challenges. And yes, English was the common denominator. That was the hardest. The Hague, they spoke Dutch, so English was fine. The others, well, America's English. Who else?
And the UK.
And the UK's English. Yeah, so English has been the common denominator throughout. And then when my students, because in South Africa, the students can get a little bit uppity about English as well, because they perceive it as a colonial language. And then you've got to say to them, but you know, it's an international language. It's the business language. So that's also, so we've got to reassure our students that it's okay. And yeah, there is problems with languages, understanding each other, but we have to deal with those in the COIL project as we encounter them.
Yes. Katrina, could I just come in there and just say, I guess one of the ways to deal with some of the issues around language is to try and publish in non-English language journals. I mean, I think that way you're at least disseminating the work. I was thinking particularly about your collaboration with the Venezuelan colleagues. Were there publications that came out maybe in some Spanish journals or Spanish
If I remember
journals?
correctly, I think they did publish a journal article in Spanish that had English as well. They did ask us, I don't know, you'd have to speak to Jose and Maria, but I think there was one in Spanish.
Great.
If I remember correctly.
There is also another question regarding the partnership on human rights. And how many students did you work with? And what was your biggest challenge while working on this project? Sekafor she's wondering if for him economic inequality and exploitation and their impacts.
Oh, okay, that's quite a mouthful.
So two questions.
Yeah.
I can repeat.
The first one is about the
Thanks.
numbers. So there, I've got two classes. So like this semester, we've got drama production and we've got analytical chemistry. So those groups are about 60 each in South Africa. So it's about 120 students. Patricia matches them with also similar numbers. She also has two groups. So we try, what we do is we make it maximum a group of 10 students. We could do like a 2/3 ratio, but each group is mixed. So at least half is mine and half is hers. And so we could have 10 groups or 12 groups in total. And then we allow them to choose the topics. So like with the global conflict, there were 4 topics. The one was on Penny. The one was on the war. The other one was on human trafficking. Another one was
immigration,
on immigration.
And then the withdrawal of US aid.
Yeah, so we allowed them because when Patricia and I spoke about it, we realized that these could be highly sensitive topics. And I personally was concerned about the war one. And so we didn't say do Gaza or do Venezuela, do Ukraine or whatever. We said you choose an area of conflict and you deal with that as your project. But the students themselves steered away from that topic and they focused on human trafficking and immigration. Not even the US aid was, I think there was maybe 1 or 2 groups that dealt with it. So we gave them the right to choose their topic that they felt most comfortable with and that they could negotiate with their partners, because we knew that there were going to be differing points of views and it could result in issues. Yeah. And the one about, what was the other question? About
if you came across any findings around economic inequality and exploitation and their impacts. in this particular project?
No, we haven't. They didn't look at that. Obviously, the Venezuela project with the women in employment and COVID, there, it was obviously the students were hospitality students, and that was an area that was extremely hard hit with COVID. So, and a lot of women in South Africa are working in the informal economy. And they were very, very hard hit with the heavy lockdowns and, having to stay at home and so on. So that, bubbled up some of those, but not in the human rights. That wasn't one of the topics.
We've dealt with inequality as a topic. Patricia and I have said that as a topic in other COIL projects, but not in the global tension one.
Could I just jump in again? Sorry, I know I'm sort of moderating, but just so many. It's so fascinating. So many interesting questions have come out of this, and I think one of the key ones for me has been, and if I've got this wrong, it was just the number of institutions that you were engaging with within the Erasmus project in particular, which raises the question of multi-COIL projects, where you have more than maybe two institutions taking part at any one time. And I wondered, in the context of what you were saying about your work with Professor Costas in Crete and universities of the future, and unearthing some of this sort of sharing of knowledge more broadly, whether you had any sort of views on some of the challenges around multi-COIL working.
I've been lucky enough to help facilitate some of those. Some of the biggest problems is the time differences when you're going. We had a project at DUT where it was Brazil, the UK, well, Ireland, and Spain and South Africa. So the three of us are fairly close, and then the Philippines. And the Philippines, those lecturers were staying up till 10, 11 o'clock at night,
Wow.
at the university, because they, I don't think, had internet facilities at home or strong enough Wi-Fi or whatever. And to be very cognizant of the fact that they're sitting in a university building, and how safe is that so late at night, in order to curate and design the project. So that, I think, is the biggest, for me in that project, that was the biggest hurdle. And I think sometimes I can't remember what happened with them, because that was also during COVID and quite a long time now. But sometimes to overcome that, the facilitators work out and that the students work asynchronously, and don't have much of the synchronous kind of get-togethers. Obviously, languages, again, always an issue. I think it's getting easier with AI and all these technologies that can help with translating and so on. Yeah, I think that was mine. But in the book that many of us are busy reading manuscripts and that for now, it's fairly common that people are collaborating with 3 or 4 different countries at the same time.
I personally haven't done it, and I would shy away from it. I prefer having one partner at a time, because like Penny mentioned, one of the big issues is the time factor. Both with America and with Venezuela, you're dealing with a 6 to 7 hour difference. So our day is ending when their day is starting, and it becomes quite difficult. Asynchronous is fine because you can use Padlet, they post, they can meet on WhatsApp. But the problem is when you try and have those synchronous meetings, you've got to find a time when they can all get together. And for us, it's sitting there at about 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is at the end of the student's day. So it's easier for us to collaborate, for example, with Europe, where there's only a 1 or a 2 hour difference. But once we go into those time zones, and like Penny says, COIL is a lot of work, and I want to avoid the chaos.
Thank you.
I know we are running out of time, but if there are any last questions, maybe Hope, you post some online, or anyone else would be like maybe time for one question.
I'm just really kind of baffled by how much you guys are talking about the need for synchronous timing, because honestly, COIL is really supposed to operate with professors coaching their students to have the student teams meet at times that work for the students, and then document that and have the emphasis on that, not the synchronous meetings. So I just am really surprised by the effort and emphasis on the synchronous timing. So that's a bigger topic, honestly.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
I can tell you it depends on the project. Like the one with Patricia, we meet with him twice. We meet with him when the project starts. We meet with them halfway to like find out how you're going. Have you met your groups? Are you meeting? What issues are you having? When we did the ACU one, there was a lot more synchronous meetings because we had guest speakers presenting on various topics. So I think it depends on the type of project you're dealing with.
Yeah, it's mostly that the icebreaker session, and then usually the final presentations and of the final projects. If it's they have to do a presentation or a poster or something like that, for it most of the time it's not a big deal, except when you're going, Brazil and the Philippines kind of thing. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning in Brazil and 11 o'clock at night in the Philippines. And then those of us in the center of the earth are very happy because we're all, but yeah, it's something that the students bring up a lot, I think. And from my experience years ago, as I say, I don't have classes now. One of the issues was, which I thought was, there's also a culture around responding to requests. So for South Africans, we're very laissez-faire. If you send me an email and I might look at it tonight and send you a response tomorrow, or I might dwell on it for 2 days and send a response. Whereas in the US, it's an instant kind of response. If it's in France, then you may not talk to them out of work hours. And, so there's kind of a culture around, and it's good for the students to learn about that, because if they're working with an international team once they leave the university, they need to understand that I need to respond to that email irrespective of whether it's in or out of my work time, or I don't have to respond as quickly because, it's my French office and they don't work after hours or something.
That's a great point, Penny. Alina, have we got, I noticed that Cefacor's got a hand up. Have we got time for just the very last one from Cefacor?
One more question. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Alina. When you say one more question, I think this is something that I can ask. So I'm just wondering, I enjoy everything behind the scene, but with this big success, were you able to recognize or find out the students with disabilities that we have in both cultures, and how you provided a reasonable accommodation? Especially, we were discussing this in our program last time, as we are trying to see how we can make it very much intentional in COIL to add accessibility to to be one of the things that we should be intentional to be looking for when we are working with low contest, high contest, because some of the countries or the cultures do not even have names for instance, invisible disabilities. But I'm very curious how we manage to serve these students or meet them at their needs. Thank you so much.
It's a great question.
Okay, with my groups, I haven't really had many students with disabilities in mind, so it hasn't come up. But if there is a student that has a disability, our university normally makes accommodation for them. So if that situation arose, then I would have to, in the COIL project, accommodate the students as well. I don't know if that's answering your question. Penny?
Yeah, I think I haven't experienced it in terms of the COIL. And as you say, the university has a disability unit. There's a lot of policy and procedures and facilitation of disabled students in whatever form, so whether it's vision or
That's the
hearing,
thing, is
or
we don't know if the student is blind, then they're going to have somebody that would assist them. The same with the deaf student. When you're dealing with learning disabilities, we have departments that assist with that, and they would guide us. But I haven't had to accommodate any disabled student. I haven't come across it in my classes. When I've dealt with COIL, I've had it in other classes where we've had, for example, a deaf person, and then you'd have a person there that would do the sign language. But I haven't had a disabled student in one of my COIL projects. I haven't come across that yet.
All right,
Well,
thank
thank
you.
you. I think we need to round it up. But could I just a last request? Would it be possible for us to take a photo if everybody puts their cameras on, and we could take a photograph for the SUNY COIL website? That would be wonderful.
That's my favorite.
Yay. Great. Thank you, everybody. And okay, I'll just take a couple, and there you go. And so glad that our friend in Vietnam just joined us. Wonderful.
Hein. Hello, Hein.
Dr. Hien. And yeah, so great. Thank you, everybody, for being on camera. Yeah.
Nice to see Hein, because I only deal with him on email. So hello, Hein.
Dr. Hien. Yes. Great. All right.
Well, thank you very
another
much.
wonderful event. Thank you.
And
Thank you very
for the
much.
opportunity.
Hello,
Thanks, everyone.
thank you.
Gracias.
Bye.
Thank you
So
very
much.
much.
Thank you so much, Penny.
We are
And
looking
you.
forward
Bye.
to reading your research. And and looking forward to Kelly Toomey's book to be out and reading the chapters. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Have a great weekend. And please let us know if you are willing to present for this series. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you, Dr.
Bye-bye.
Hines.
Bye.
Coordinators
bye-bye.
on the call. See you next Tuesday or Wednesday at our coordinator meeting. Thank you,
Okay.
Alina and Alex, for doing this, and Penny and Catharina for your great presentation today.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.